Hi, everybody. My name is Adrian Lefler. I'm here with My Social Practice. I'm the vice president. And today I'm going to be talking about how to optimize your Google My Business account. I wanted to talk about this because I often speak with doctors or office managers who are not familiar with what it is or how it plays a part in attracting new patients, how it plays a part in search results on Google. So there's a lot of confusion around it. So I'm going to kind of demystify Google My Business and give you the first few steps to begin optimization. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to optimize your GMB account, Google My Business. But you can't do it in 20 minutes. So I'm going to give you the first kind of like to kick it off, kind of like clarify and clear out a lot of the miscommunication or confusion about what it is and give you the first few steps to get going. And then what I would do is, if you're not following us on our blog or on Facebook, definitely do that, because we're going to be coming out with several new tips and tricks over the next few months about things you can do to optimize and help your GMB account rank better or kind of build it out and so forth. So anyway, with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you have any questions as you're going through this, you can, I believe you can ask questions in the, you might be able to ask questions in the comments. If not, you can shoot me an email to Adrian at My Social Practice. I'm happy to answer questions. If you're a current client of My Social Practice, you can send in an email to your social media consultant or social media manager, and I'm sure we can give you some direction or help you out. So as best we can. All right, so let's talk about this. So in the Google search results, when you do a search, you'll see the map. And a common misunderstanding is that those map results are your website results, and they're not. The information that's being pulled into that map is coming from your Google My Business account, which is your business listing inside of the Google database. Okay, so here's My Social Practice's account. I just did a search in the map section for My Social Practice on my desktop. It looks different on a cell phone, obviously. So this is the desktop image. And on the left, you have information about the business name, phone number, address, open times, services. Your reviews are tied to your Google My Business account, and then it'll have a little pin in the map on the right. So that's kind of what it looks like. I think everybody's pretty familiar with this, but just know that this is your Google My Business account information that's being pulled into this. Now, here's where the confusion comes in. Way back in the early internet days, like 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago or so, Google didn't have Google Maps in the search results. Some of you that are a little older might remember that it was just a bunch of website results, just links. There was no map. And Google wanted to create a local search results for people that were looking locally for businesses rather than nationally. And so what they did in their infinite wisdom is they designed this giant evil robot that basically went out and scraped information from directories online. So they scraped information from yellow pages. This is business data information. White pages. They scraped information from state business directory, like the registration place where you register your business. They scraped all this information and they populated their database with that information. The problem, the big cluster that happened was that they would pull data from, say, yellow pages, and it would have your addresses 1, 2, 3, 4, suite 100. And then they would pull your data from the state registration database, and it would say your address is 1, 2, 3, 4 STE.100. And that brilliant evil robot had no idea that that was the same business, because there was a comma in the wrong place. So they spelled suite differently. So what happened is, when this originally populated business data in the map section, doctors had, some of them, dozens of business listings, like all repeated with different, slightly different information. And Google didn't have a way, well, they weren't going to fix it. You couldn't call them and say, oh, that's a bad information. What they did is they said, claim your listing, verify it, and there was a process to do that. And then that will give you access to that Google My Business account or the business listing, and then you can merge or delete the data. And so it was a huge cluster. Some of the doctors listening probably remember like deleting a listing and then showing back up. And that's because the evil robot would scrape the bad information from a directory 1 month, you would clean it up, and then it would scrape it again, and anyway, it was a total mess. So anyway, a lot of cleanup has happened. But I talked to 3 doctors last week who still hadn't claimed and verified their listing, their Google My Business account. So anyway, so in the beginning, Google called these local listings for a localized result. Then after a few years, Google rebranded the local listing Google Maps thing to call it Google Places. And it's the same listings, same database, but they rebranded it. They added a few functionality things. They changed the algorithm, a whole bunch of stuff. And so now you've got 2 names kind of in the industry talking about these listings. Then it got super confusing when Google saw Facebook take off, and they're like, ooh, we got to get into the social media game. Let's launch Google+. And by this time, everybody was super confused. Unless you were like a search engine marketer and watching this stuff daily, you had no idea that your Google Plus account had nothing to do with your Google local listing or Google Places. But I was talking to people who were like, oh, I've got to update my Google Plus account so that my business listing shows up right in the Google Maps section. It's a total mess. Like, Google Plus is a social media account. And by the way, it's totally dead. Like, Google's been trying to dismantle that product and remove it from the internet for the last several years. So Google Plus is ixnay, it's like dead. Google local listings and Google Places are basically the same thing, just different names. But now, a couple of years ago, Google rebranded the whole local listings and Google Places things to Google My Business. So Google My Business is your business listing in the Google database. We no longer call it Google local listings. We don't call it Google Places, and Google Plus is totally dead. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies a little bit about what it is, okay? All right, so why is it so important? Why is Google My Business so important? Well, that has to do a little bit with the patient journey, and different marketers will say there's different phases here. This is a very kind of generalization on the process of a new patient journey. But basically what happens is a patient, so I'm going to explain how Google My Business helps in the new patient journey, becoming a new patient at your office. So a patient becomes aware of a problem. So that first picture where the guy's like this, that's because he's got a super, super intense headache. He's got a root canal he needs to get, but he doesn't know where to go yet. That's the idea there. So he's become aware he's got a problem, and now he's going to become either aware of your practice in some way, and patients can become aware of your practice through, they drive by your office, they see a billboard, they call their friend and like, hey, who should I go see? Some people will jump on Facebook and search, say, hey, who's a good dentist in town? They might do a search on Google. It doesn't really matter how they become aware, but they're going to have a problem, and they're going to become aware of your practice in some fashion, okay? Once they become aware of your practice and they start doing research, they move into the second phase called the consideration phase, which is where they gather information about you, about the other dentists in the area, and they're like, who should I schedule with? And finally, after they gather enough information, they make the call and they become a patient. Simple. We all kind of understand that process, okay? Google My Business plays a role in kind of the first phase, but my argument is that it's a very, very strong player in the second phase, in the consideration phase for a patient. So when I talk to doctors and marketing managers and they're like, hey, I'm really wanting to like optimize my Google My Business account so that I rank higher in the map section, that's like a big deal, because if you do rank high, people come to know about who you are because they do searches on Google and they see the map and you be in the map. But that can be detrimental if your Google My Business account really isn't optimized well. And I'm gonna give you an example. I'm not saying that optimization isn't like super important, because it is, meaning ranking higher. But you have to take into consideration two factors with your Google My Business account. It's not just ranking, it's also a big social proof play. So here's an example to illustrate the reason why just ranking isn't the most important thing, okay? So I did a search, best dentist in Los Angeles. This is not an example in a vacuum. I see this happen all the time. So I have blanked out the name and the phone number of the top Google GMB account in this listing, and you can see it's an ad because it says ad there. So this doctor is actually running a very smart ad, running an ad in the maps section. And this, by the way, running an ad here is called AdWords. If you're, I know there's going to be somebody else talking about AdWords. Prospective Marketing does a lot of AdWords stuff. Dreamscape Marketing does AdWords. A lot of people do AdWords. But basically, you can run ads. It's also called pay-per-click. That's not pay-per-click, like a piece of paper you write on. It's paying per click. Yeah, I had that problem early on, not knowing the difference or what it meant. So it's paying per click. It's AdWords. Okay, you can run that in the map section, and running an ad in the map section on the phrase best dentist in city is actually a super smart idea, because the Google My Business account pulls in your reviews, right? And your reviews are attached to that account, and reviews in the mind of your potential patient is a correlation or an attribute of good, great dentistry. If you have more reviews, that kind of points in the direction of you being a better dentist. It's just, whether you like it or not, that's how people see reviews. So the phrase, running the ad on the phrase best dentist in Los Angeles in the map section is super smart. But this doctor what is this doctor saying? He or she's got 16 reviews, okay? And everybody else on the page has got more reviews, 92, 29, and then I actually know Dr. Bill Dorfman. He's got almost 2,000 Google reviews, okay? And so, like, put yourself in the shoes of the patient. If you're looking at this, who are you going to call? And actually, a better question is really, what is this doctor advertising? Is this doctor advertising that they're the best dentist in Los Angeles? No, they're actually saying, hey, I'm not the best dentist in Los Angeles because I don't have as many reviews as anybody else. Like, why would somebody spend money to tell everybody that? This is totally ridiculous. So if I were a patient and I had no other information, I just moved into LA and I am looking for a dentist, and I go to Google, like I say, I know Dr. Dorfman, so I'm a little bit biased, but I call him, I call his office, because he obviously is liked by a whole heck of a lot more people than everybody else in the area. At least that's what the result is showing. So this is an example. Like, if you want to rank really, really high in Google Maps, you can run an ad and be at the top of the list tomorrow. It's not cheap, but you can put yourself at the top of the list so you can get top placement. But what are you saying if you don't have the social proof and the reviews to back it up? And I'm not going to be going in and describing how to get reviews in this presentation. I know there's some other presenters that are going to talk about that, but if you have questions about that, give us a call. We're happy to help out with getting more reviews. It's really easy to get reviews if you have an internal kind of like marketing plan with your team. But I'm not going to be talking about that, like I said. So we're going to go into detail on how to optimize. Just know that you can optimize, but optimization doesn't necessarily, if you get to the top of the map or if you get higher in the map, doesn't necessarily solve the problem, right? You still have to have the social proof backing it up. So let's talk about how to optimize your Google My Business account. So first of all, I really wanted to use the word discombobulated in this presentation because it's a fun word to use. So don't get discombobulated at this point. Here's what needs to happen. You need to log into your Google account in order to get access to your Google My Business account. That's right. Your Google account and your Google My Business account are freakishly similar in the vernacular there. So you got to know what's the difference between the two. So you have a personal Google account. If you don't have a personal Google account, you can't get access to a Google My Business account. So just know that in order to get to the Google My Business account, you got to log into your Google account, your personal Google account. And once you've signed into that online, then you can get access to it. Now, some of you are going to log into your personal Google account. You're going to do this next step. You're going to do step one. You're going to log in to your personal account. You're going to do step two, and you're not going to find your Google My Business account. And what that means is that you're not an admin on your GMB account. Okay, so one, you log into your personal Google account. Two, you go to business.google.com. If your personal Google account is an admin on your GMB account, you'll see it here. So I'm an admin on two different GMB accounts. Garrett Davis is my brother-in-law. He's an orthopedic surgeon. I've been helping him out with his optimization personally. And then I'm an admin on my social practices GMB account, okay? So multiple people can be admins on one Google My Business account, right? So when you log in and you go to your Google My Business account, you might have 10 admins on there, and one Google My Business or one personal Google account can be the admin on multiple GMB accounts, okay? So it's just linking. You become an admin. Your personal Google account becomes an admin on the GMB account. I've belabored that enough. Anyway, whatever. So you get in here, you click on whichever account, or if you're only an admin on one account, it'll just open it up and you'll come here, okay? So this is on the right, kind of here, I've basically screenshot the opening screen of when you log in, and it's laid out where on the left, you have all these different tabs that you have access to, and on the right, it kind of gives you an overview, but then you can click on different tabs and start editing and adding information and so forth. This is what it looks like on a desktop. You can also pull this up on your phone. You just go to the App Store and you download this app, the Google My Business app. So if you download the Google My Business app onto your phone and you're logged into your personal Google account on your phone, you can get to the same place. Visually, it's a little bit of a different layout, but you can do editing of your account through both systems. I find it actually easier to do the editing on a desktop, so that's what I'm going to be using here, but you can get to it from your phone, okay? And so there you go. So let's go back to the desktop version. Now, when you log in, at the top of the page, they've actually built in a wizard that will walk you through how to optimize it, okay? And so my recommendation is go through the entire plan. So when you click View Plan at the top, a little thing slides in on the right, and it gives you a whole long list of things that you should do to optimize the account. I would definitely do all of these things. These are the recommendations of Google, and I'm positive that has an effect on your ranking in the local search results in the Google map, okay? So you're just basically going here, you're looking through this list. Now we've already done a lot of the optimization on our My Social Practice GMB account. So there's only one thing in there, create a post, but you'll initially see quite a bit there that you can do, okay? So I would make sure you follow that wizard is the first thing. And then second of all, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail at this point, okay, because I think the wizard will help, but I want to highlight just a couple parts that you should probably be aware of. If you click on the Info tab, okay, what will come up is all the information about your practice. Address, phone, service areas, categories, your hours, there's tons of stuff. You want to make sure that's all filled out and correct, okay? There is one section here at the top which is called your categories section. It's right there at the top, right below the name of your business, okay? And if you hit the little pencil icon, that's your edit icon, you can add in what are called categories. Now, categories are basically pulled from the Google database. So you can't just type in your category. You can't say, I am a dental implant specialist, or I do root canals and root canal. Basically, you got to go into the category. You got to start searching for different words, and it'll give you options to select from. Okay, so these are not. You have to just basically find the categories that relate to your business. So I'll give you some examples. So I typed in dentist as the primary category, and the drop down shows me dentist, cosmetic dentist, pediatric dentist, dental insurance agency, ... Okay, so what you're wanting to do here is start searching dental words like dentist, dental here, like dental gives us dental clinic, dental school. Search as many words as you can and find all the categories that relate to services that you provide. So here's dental IM, and I get dental implants, periodontist, and I select that, right, if I do any kind of dental implant work. And cosmetic D, I got cosmetic dentist, cosmetic, there's really nothing in there else that relates to dentistry, but basically I'm searching for categories, and this is the highest part of the hierarchy, or lowest or highest, however you want to look at it, part of the hierarchy in terms of helping your Google My Business account to be identified by Google relating to certain services. So this has a lot to do with the search behavior. When somebody goes into Google and they search cosmetic dentist in your city, if you haven't listed your Google My Business account as a category, or cosmetic dentistry or cosmetic dentist as a category, you are likely not going to show up for that phrase. So you're looking for phrases and whatnot that relate to your services. So here's one that doesn't show up: family dentist. There's no category in the database to select family dentist. Okay, so some of them aren't going to work. You're looking for the categories, as many as you can, that relate to your business, and select as many as you can. Okay, for my social practice, we've got marketing agency, advertising agency, marketing consultant, and website designer. Okay, and we're really not we do consulting, but we're not an official marketing consultant kind of company in the traditional sense. But I'll show you how we use that as a service to help us rank. Second of all, you should fill out the service areas. My recommendation with service areas is that you go narrow rather than wide. Inside of ranking in Google Maps, the strongest the strongest attribute is just your physical location. As you try and rank as you get further and further away from your actual physical location, it's going to be more and more difficult to rank. So depending on the density of the population of where you're at, if you're in, Upper East Side Manhattan versus, Podunk, Iowa, or whatever, the range, the area range of what you can rank is obviously going to be greater in Iowa than it is going to be in Manhattan. So you have to take that into consideration that, some of your practices might rank higher in different areas at wider radiuses. But depending on that, I would say go narrow. So the service areas for my social practice are all over the world. We've got clients in all English-speaking countries pretty much across the world. But yours might be within a 5 to 10 or 15 mile radius of your practice. And so I would list every city and town within that range, and go narrow rather than wide, okay? Maybe another way to think about it is when you look at where you draw your patients from. I think a lot of data shows that most practices draw like 90 to 95% of their patients from like a 5 to 10 mile radius. That's probably what you should do then, is list all the service areas in that range, okay? So that's another thing. Then the last thing that I'm going to mention is down below, there's a services section. Now the services pull from the categories that you selected above, okay? So you'll see that in our services, we've got marketing agency, advertising agency, and then the other two was the marketing consultant and the other one, the website designer, okay? So they list those categories first, and then what you can do is you can go in to those categories and then list services related to those categories. And the services that you can relate, you can edit and you can add a lot of content. So we've got marketing agency, right, which was a category that I didn't write in, I had to select from the list, but I listed social media marketing, website design, reputation management, Instagram influencer marketing, website hosting and maintenance. And then you can actually select like social media or any of these services that you've listed, and then you can go in and you can add text. They give you 300 characters to write out the text. And my recommendation here is that you use all 300 of those characters and you put in as much language, text that relates to certain search phrases in your area. So if you want to rank for cosmetic dentist, then you might put in here several services related to cosmetic dentistry, and then write in the text and fill it out, use all the space you can, and optimize your business listing for those search phrases and search words, okay? So this is, I rarely see this done ever by any dentist or office manager, and a lot of marketing companies don't even do it. So if you want to rank better in Google Maps, this is one of the first places I would say you need to add in all your categories, your services, and then build out that content. I haven't seen a limit to this, all right? So you can kind of like just build it all out. If you find a limit, let me know. So that's the first kind of kickoff in terms of these tips and tricks of optimization. I'm not going to be able to go into a lot of the other things in here in terms of optimizing. Like I say, we're going to be producing more content and direction on this over the next few months. So just stay tuned to what we're producing in terms of our blog content. So my thought here is, if you can just find your Google My Business account, get to the view plan section, do all that list, do that whole list that Google recommends, and then get your categories, service areas, and services filled out, you've made, you're going to be light years ahead of what's being done typically in the industry. So I have to end there in order to cut this time and not have Blake Hadley get mad at me. So if you have any questions, please shoot me an email. If you're a current My Social Practice client, give us a call your social media consultant or your social media manager. If there's anything we can do to kind of help clarify this or clean it up or whatever it might be, we'd be happy to help out. And I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck. Stay safe in this crazy COVID time, and take care.